There we go. That's working now. Welcome to Bolts Breakdown. Jay Recher, Bryan Burns here with you. There we go. Just make sure we're straight. We are straight. And, talking a little bit of Lightning hockey tonight ahead of tonight's game, Burnsy, against the Washington Capitals in D.C. As always, we want to hear from you right here on Bolts Breakdown, so feel free to share this on your Facebook. Let us know, and also chime in and let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from. It's a little bit of a weird schedule. We're used to that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule, but we're on the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule this week. But let's look back to Monday night, Burnsy, a very entertaining contest for a multitude of reasons. We knew what was at stake going for the team, with the win, right, clinching not just the Atlantic Division, but the Eastern Conference's top seed and the President's Trophy. But I think even though that was a great story, I think the lead story of the night was Steven Stamkos. I mean, you get that tip in front of the net. Ryan McDonough threw the shot somewhere in the vicinity of the goal mount, and he was right there, and it tipped off everyone. There he is, Fabio, my man. What's going on, Fabio? And glad you made it safely back to Italy, and it was really nice meeting you the other night, my friend. I'll definitely post that picture here soon. If you guys didn't see the whole story with Fabio Cerini from Italy, check that out. I believe it's on some of the stories are all over the web.
Yeah, you look at TampaBayLightning.com. You can
check
see
it
the
out.
distant video thunder that they played in the arena.
It was well done.
A couple games,
Very well done. So shout out to Fabio and appreciate you.
Yeah, really cool meeting you, Fabio. And
You're the
sorry
man,
I didn't get that picture with you at the end of. Had to do some post game work. I'm kind of hustling there at the end of games, but maybe next time.
Yeah, definitely next time you're in town, we will definitely get up for a picture. But as we were alluding to, Steven Stamkos, I mean, my gosh, man, just a historic night, Burnsy. And, we were up in the press box, and I think one of the coolest things was, kind of everybody realizing that it was the history-making goal, and he scores, and you really know because, like, on the big screen, they center in on Stammer, and then everybody's like, okay, and then you saw, like, gradually everybody in the building knew, oh, wow, he just broke the record. And then they put the graphic on the big screen. Everybody, standing ovation until the TV timeout. And then a shout-out to John Franzone and the Lightning Vision crew. And Kinsey, in charge of all the social media, she was right on top of it. And then the video package played. And it was just an incredible moment and just such an honor to be there.
Yeah, and like you said, I thought McDonough had scored initially. It just looked like one of those pucks. He put it on net, and you thought maybe he got a screen, and and he was able to get it past Kemper. And then, when you see Stamkos kind of be the first one to make the beeline to the bench, then you kind of figure, well, maybe he got a tip on it, and then with Hammer Time playing, the
gave it away.
Then you kind of figure, oh wow, that was Steven Stamkos, and not the conventional way. When you think about Stammer breaking a record on a goal, you're thinking, left circle, one timer from the office, maybe on the power play. You're not really thinking tip in off a shot from the point where he's right in front battling for position, but pretty interesting, I guess. Paul Kennedy during the intermission interview with Steven Stamkos had reminded Stammer that's how he scored his very first goal, which also happened with Rick Tocchet behind the Lightning bench.
Yeah.
And then on, what day was it?
Monday night.
Get my days mixed up. I thought it was Friday yesterday.
There you go.
And then on Monday, when Stammer scores 384, Rick Tocchet's on the Arizona bench. So just kind of cool how everything comes full circle there. And he talked about after the game how it was. I don't know that maybe the enormity of the moment hit him until the fans continued to applaud for a little bit, and then they played the little tribute video on Lightning Vision, and then he came out for a little twirl on the ice to acknowledge the fans, and they continued to stand and applaud and cheer him. And he said he got a little emotional, once that happened. I don't know, maybe it didn't really hit him beforehand, or he was just, so much adrenaline at that point. It's probably not processing. But then once he had a time to sit down and really just take everything in, I think it really hit him a little bit, and it probably it meant a lot to him. And curious to, I want to try to figure out more about this story. Apparently, the night before, Stammer was, at a restaurant somewhere locally, and Vinny LeCavier was there, and it's kind of a good omen for what was to come the next day. So it'd be interesting to know what that conversation was like, or even where they were eating.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know. Next time you guys frequent there, I want an invite. But I think at times, Burnsy, with this team, and John Cooper mentioned this in the postgame, is just it seems like there's so many historic things happening this season. It just seems like every night a record's being broken, whether it's Kucherov with most points in a season, whether it's Stammer with the goal, passing Vinny Lecavalier for most in franchise history.
More tonight, they win.
Could be more tonight as well.
Tonight could be most road wins in a NHL or in a Lightning season, most road points. So
the long winning streaks for the goaltenders, add that as well. Was it the earliest to clinch? It could set the record. They've done with.
They still have the most wins in NHL history. Wins. That's still on the board. They need 6 wins over their last 9 regular season games to tie,
and that's feasible.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, 6 out of 9 for this team.
That's almost
that's like kind of middle of the road for what they've been doing. So
that'd be like a bad couple of weeks for them, right?
Yeah. The most points, I think it's 132. That one's gonna be a little tougher. They can't drop more than 2 points the rest of the way to tie. So that one's gonna be tough. But I think that 95-96 Detroit Red Wings most wins in an NHL season, which is 62. They're at 56 right now. I think that's pretty feasible.
Without a doubt. Bryan Burns, Jay Recher here with you on Bolts Breakdown. As always, we want to hear from you. Where are you watching Bolts Breakdown from? Put it right there at the bottom of the screen. Also, share this on your Facebook so we can spread the word. Share it to all those Lightning fan pages that we have here on Facebook. And if you have any questions about this year, this team, and this game tonight, definitely put it there at the bottom of the screen. So where you're watching, share it, and any questions, let us know. Before we get into tonight's game against the Capitals up in D.C., I know some people were asking and kind of mentioned this the last couple of days, is how are the Lightning going to stay motivated through this next couple of weeks? And my answer was, they've been doing it all year long. They've won different kinds of game, whether it was a tightly checking game, whether it was a more of a fast pace, up and down kind of game. But I think one thing that really helps them, Burnsy, is that they're playing really good competition down the stretch. You got a couple more games against the Washington Capitals. You got games coming up with the Bruins. You play Carolina tomorrow. So, I mean, it's not like you're going in there and it's like, all right, well, how are you going to get up for a game with Detroit, or how are you going to get up for a game with Ottawa, the Rangers, or any of these teams that are at the bottom of the league? I think it's hard for them to just kind of go into these games and just throw out their sticks and think that they're going to win when you know the other team is going to be battling every single night for their own playoff lives.
Yeah, like you said, these are teams they could play in the playoffs. I mean, Washington, that could very easily be an Eastern Conference rematch from last year in the Eastern Conference Final. I wouldn't be surprised either. I thought, Washington probably, looking at that other side of the bracket with the Metro, I think they're the most likely team to come out of that and make their way to the Eastern Conference Final. Boston, who the Lightning have 2 more times, a likely Eastern Conference semifinal opponent, or Toronto, who they play once in Toronto one more time. Montreal, who's a possible first-round opponent for the Lightning. They're going to play them one more time in Montreal. So these are teams that they're potentially going to see on if they're fortunate enough to go on an extended playoff run. So I think there's motivation there. And then, like you said, it's not really, they haven't been motivated by these records or by clinching President's Trophy, maybe clinching the playoffs. I think that's the big one. They talk about that from the very beginning of the season. Our goal during the regular season is make it into the playoffs. Then once we make it in, then everything else is gravy. But, I think once they clinch playoffs, then it's more just about, finding their game, making sure they're playing the best that they can play, making sure they're rounding their game into playoff shape, fixing or paying attention to the little details of the game that are going to make them better, fixing there's not a lot wrong with this team, but fixing the couple of things that they'd like to get a little bit better at, continue to get better at the things that they already do well. I think it's just kind of tinkering and just rounding their game into shape over these last 9 regular season games.
Whoa.
And earthquake here at the
earthquake.
Studios. And I think that's what the motivation is. I don't necessarily think it comes from you have a chance to break the record for most wins. And maybe they talk about that.
Maybe
it doesn't
a little
really
bit.
seem like they do, at least when they talk to us. But I don't really think that that's what the motivation for this team is.
I think it's nice to have those check marks along the way, but what Tyler Johnson said to us the other night, he goes, I really don't think about it until you guys ask us.
He says that, and then Louis Domingue's like, hold my beer, because after they clinched the President's Trophy, I'm sure everybody's seen the video, the win video, he goes through the locker room on a motorcycle. So that was, planned a little bit in advance.
But Louis, he'll celebrate anything, though.
So someone's thinking about it, because Louis, thought enough to, let's get a motorcycle in here in case we clinch the President's Trophy tonight so we can have a really good win video.
I like that. And I saw the motorcycle being wheeled out, too, so it was really...
I got a lot of attention. A lot of national, like NHL on NBC picked that up, and, a lot of people are out there just, Lightning are having fun, and people are enjoying
It's
watching.
scary when it's a good team and they're having fun.
Yeah.
And it's just like every day they go to work, they enjoy the moves with everybody. Let's see, Victor Maldonado from the cubicle, 20 feet away. Any news on Strawman? No news on Strawman yet, but
There's news on Girardi.
There is?
He has been, I guess you could say, downgraded. He was. Keep my mic close. What is it? Where is it?
No, you're good.
So he was down. He was day to day. Now he's out indefinitely.
Oh no,
so
that's not good.
Not really sure what's going on there, but a little bit of a downgrade in his status. So not sure what that means going forward. Hopefully he can get back and healthy before the playoff run.
And they sent down Cameron Gaunt, so you'd have to think that probably Anton Strawman's get a little bit closer.
You would think if they make that move, then one of those guys was probably getting close to playing. So now that we know that Girardi's out indefinitely, you would assume that Anton Strawman's probably getting pretty close.
Without a doubt. Shout out to Alex Parker watching from Eugene, Oregon. Thank you so much. John Patrick, a Publix parking lot in Sarasota. John, always watching from Olean, New York. Cheryl from Delaware, and Philip in Winter City. Did I say Winter City? Haven City. There you go. I'll get it eventually. Haven City of Winter Haven. All right, let's talk a little bit about tonight's game. Remember, follow Burnsy at B Burns NHL. You can follow me at J Recher. Let's talk about a little bit about tonight's game. And a lot of people are asking already about Chernak and Tom Wilson. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't see them throwing down the gloves maybe in the first. I think it's one of those things where it's just going to kind of happen organically. It won't take long. I don't know if they're just going to go out and just start fighting each other, though. I don't know if that's going to be because I don't.
That's not the Lightning's MO.
No, it's not,
and I don't think that's really the Caps' MO either.
Me neither. And I don't think you would want to kind of disturb that just style of play or kind of the flow of play unless maybe a team goes down. Like let's say the Lightning jump out to a 2-0 lead, then maybe you do that. But you got to think with 6 defensemen. Obviously the numbers game. You take Chernak out for 5 minutes, that's going to hurt the Lightning a lot more than it hurts the Capitals to lose a guy. You can always, double shift a winger on that top line. But still, Chernak's not going to back down. But I wouldn't be surprised if those guys mix it up. I don't know if they'll full-fledged fight, but they're definitely going to be in each other's face tonight for sure.
I think a lot of it will depend on how the Caps approach this game. If they come out with the same the physicality that they did in that first matchup, if they come out looking, you saw it in the first couple shifts. Wilson had a big hit on Sergachev. Ovechkin had a big hit on Jan Ruda. Ovi coming. If I'm Jan Ruda, I'm probably like peeing in my pants when I see Alex Ovechkin skating as fast as he can, as big as he is, and plow into me. I mean, that was a lot of force that he hit Jan Ruda with.
And it's funny because like where we sit in the press box, because Burnsy kind of sits behind me up to this on the top level and over a little bit, and it happened like right in front of us.
Yeah,
so we were like, we could feel it because we were right in front of it, and it was just like, what do you do after that? But to Jan Ruda's credit, though, he bounced back.
He got right back up.
Big hits. He got right back up, and he's played pretty well since he's been in the lineup. You haven't really noticed him, and I think at times when you're a bottom 6 defenseman, it's better not to be noticed. That means you're not turning the puck over or having any trouble in your defensive end. So I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, other than he did have the one turnover that led to Arizona's goal the other night,
true, yeah.
and but other than that, he's played pretty well. He's moved the puck. He's been reliable back there. He's not a guy that you have to mask for. You don't have to double shift guys to kind of mask for his presence. So you can throw him out there, and you don't really have to limit his ice time because you're worried about matchups or anything like that.
Without a doubt. And should be a good contest tonight overall. It's always a good game when the Lightning play the Capitals, especially in D.C. It seems like there's a little extra juice up there. Burnsy, what's your 3 keys to victory for the Bolts tonight?
Scoring 3 goals, actually.
There you go. That's what it is.
If you look at Washington right now, and they're coming off a 4-game road trip. They played last night in New Jersey, and they go from New Jersey to D.C. overnight, and they're playing a second half of a back-to-back tonight. So for me, take advantage of those tired legs. The Lightning have a little bit of an advantage. They flew up to D.C. yesterday, so they were able to get into the hotel, get relaxed, get comfortable. They could even watch the Caps Devils game last night. So kind of interesting that the Lightning get into D.C. before the Caps are even there. So I think that's a clear advantage for the Lightning. They're not playing. They're on the first half of a back-to-back, so it might catch up with them tomorrow night when they play in Carolina. But DC, the Caps, they should be a little tired right now because they're They had a 4-game road trip. They finished it last night in New Jersey, and then they have to come back to D.C., play the second half of a back-to-back. Number 2 for me is just stay focused. And what I mean by that is I thought Washington came out in that first matchup really intent on ramping up the physicality like we alluded to earlier. I thought they did so in an attempt to try to get the Lightning out of their game. We saw that earlier this season against Pittsburgh where the Lightning were in complete control of a game. And then the Penguins just started chirping and digging and just doing little things within the framework of the game to try to egg on and antagonize the Lightning. Yeah. I thought the Lightning kind of bought into it a little bit, and they got more focused on trying to retaliate against the Penguins than they did holding on to their lead or doing the things that they
playing their
done
game.
Exactly done previously to build that lead. So for me, just don't want to see the Lightning get involved in any of that extracurricular stuff that the Caps might try to get into. I thought that they played extremely well in that first matchup. I thought they matched the Caps' physicality and even took it to them a little bit at times.
Within the confines of the game, too.
Absolutely.
It's not like they overexerted themselves.
And it's not like the Caps did anything outside of the framework of the game either, other than maybe towards the end, the Wilson-Chernak dust-up where Wilson was throwing some uppercuts within the scrum where...
Dirty boxing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
other for the rabbit punches.
Yeah, and they got away with that a couple times. But other than that, I thought it was clean. But just don't want to see the Lightning get too focused on the retaliation that gets them out of their game, and then that's how Washington could potentially get back into it. Then number 3 for me is getting momentum on the power plays. I thought the Lightning were 0 for 4 on the power play against the Capitals, and they were pretty bad looking on the power play. Quite frankly, they had a couple where they just couldn't even get the puck in the zone and. I thought it took a lot of momentum away from the Lightning. And even if you're not able to get a power play goal, which we've seen plenty of from this Lightning team, number 1 power play in the league, but even if you can't score on the power play, at least get momentum off of it. And I thought in the first time these two teams played, the Lightning actually lost momentum on their power plays. So for me, it's just about being sound on the power play. Even if you don't get a goal, at least get a little bit of momentum so maybe those next couple shifts after you have a better chance of scoring. 2
of the more dangerous power plays in the league when the Lightning match up with the Capitals. What they're going to bring to the table with, the Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Oshie, Ovechkin, and Karlsson. I mean, that's a really dynamite power play, and it's worked to perfection for them for many years now. When they got Oshie in that trade for Troy Brouwer with St. Louis, it kind of settled that power play unit into place because for a while it was just let Ovechkin rip those hammers from his office, kind of exactly where Stamkos is at. But now, just like Braden Point in the middle, TJ Oshie is that same guy right there, and they have instead of theirs is a little different. Theirs is a little bit more of a pass from the right side. They don't have the Kucherov on that side. They have Backstrom and Kuznetsov on that side. They're a little bit more of a playmaker looking to set up the right-handed shots. That to me is why the Lightning power play is a little bit more dangerous in my opinion than theirs, but. You have the best goal scorer of this generation on Ovechkin. He was able to. I thought the Lightning did a pretty good job on Ovechkin, and he still had 2 goals. I mean, that's incredible to think.
For the Lightning, it was
that's
a block shot by Hedman where the block ends up going right to Ovechkin in his wheelhouse. He's able to just skate onto it in one time and into the net. And there's really nothing you could do there for the Lightning. You played it pretty much perfectly.
And the other one was a shot that went off the backboards and went right to Ovechkin. I mean, you can't plan that any better. So I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. My one guy to watch. We're going to look a little deeper. Not any of the top guys. A guy that always plays really well against the Lightning, and he played really well in the playoffs last year, is Lars Eller. Is a guy on a third or fourth line for them. He's just a grinder and a guy for them that always seems to give the Lightning some fits because he's a darn good forechecker. And we had Bobby the Chief Taylor on yesterday with Ron and Ian, and he said the only way a team's going to beat the Lightning is if they do one of 2 things. They have to have some good goaltending, and they have to be a good forechecking team. And he's right. I mean, you have to be relentless. You have to put the Lightning on their heels and not let them get their feet going and clog up the neutral zone and just put the pressure on them. That we saw last year, the Capitals have the ability to do that. The Lightning, I think, saw that last year. They've made the correct adaptations to their game plan. But still, I mean, no team is good playing in their own zone. I don't care how good defensively you are. The only way you're going to be able to beat teams is by scoring goals. I know that sounds redundant, but you don't always want to. It's like a soccer approach. You don't always want to play the counterattack game. You want to be able to put the pressure on the other team and let them try to counter you. And I thought we didn't see much of that. I thought we saw a lot of that towards the end of the playoff series where the Capitals just had the Lightning hemmed in deep, and there wasn't even that many chances. Yanni Gourde had that big chance in front that he missed, but wasn't like the Lightning had a ton of scoring chances at the end of the playoff series last year, but I thought the other night they had more chances. They hemmed them a little bit deeper in their zone. I just thought the Lightning played an overall better game. And for any of the fans out there that still have difficulty, that this team doesn't have enough punch, literally and physically, I thought they answered the bell against the Capitals last Saturday night, and it's going to be another hotly contested game tonight, and I'm not worried at all. Even if the Lightning don't win this game, I don't question the lack of toughness or anything like that. I think this team is set and they're ready to go, and whatever happens tonight happens. I don't think any of that changes.
Yeah, I really like how this team's playing right now. You're getting scoring from your secondary players now. You're getting scoring from your defensemen. Yep. They're getting involved offensively. I think defensively as a whole, the group has played really well over the last couple of weeks. They're really paying attention to their own end. Vasilevsky hasn't been tested too much in a lot of these wins, and they're just playing a really solid game right now. So I like where things are headed. It's a pretty tough road trip if you look at this one. I mean, obviously the Lightning don't play well for whatever reason during the regular season in D.C. They got to go in the second half of a back-to-back to Carolina, who's a team that's in the first wild card spot right now.
Man.
And yeah, they've been playing really well of late, and they're obviously scratching and clawing to get every point they can to make it into the postseason. Then you finish the trip in St. Louis, another team that's right there, kind of at the cutoff line. They're in the playoffs right now, but they're trying to get every point that they can so that they can remain there. So this is going to be a big test for the Lightning. This is going to be 3 really tough opponents on the road, and we'll see. The Lightning have answered pretty much all the tests that they've been presented with this season, and I have no doubt that they'll be able to do so again. But these are going to be 3 tough games. So if the Lightning lose 2, it's not the end of the world. Without
a doubt. And something I looked up yesterday, me playing fantasy hockey, the top 3 fantasy defensemen in the last 2 weeks, Hedman, McDonough, and Chernak.
Yeah, McDonough's like plus 12.
Plus 12 in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, over the last 4 games or so.
Incredible.
Hedman, since February 27th, I think it is, leads all defensemen for scoring. 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points.
Can't beat it.
And then, Chernak, his plus-minus has been really good. He's been throwing in an assist and a goal like we saw the other day in the Washington game. So, the Lightning are really starting to get that production offensively from the defensemen that they really weren't getting, too much of. McDonough started off really hot, then he cooled off a little bit. Hedman hasn't quite put up the offensive numbers that he did last year. Chernak, it took him along a little bit to start getting into the mix offensively, to start feeling comfortable. And kind of similar with Sergachev. He didn't score his first goal until halfway through the season. So a lot of these guys, took them a little bit to get undercooked, or what am I talking about? Undercooked, uncorked, offensively. But you're seeing that a little bit more from them, and that's going to be really important for them going into the postseason. Check
out Joe Smith on Twitter, Joe Smith TB, I believe, on Athletic. I don't know if you saw that they revealed the poll. They did a poll of the top 500 or 500 players in the league, and they did top offensive player, top defensive player, best goalie, and best shot. And best offensive player, it was McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, and then Kucherov fourth. Best defenseman, Victor Hedman, was number 1, which was good to see. Best goalie was still Carey Price. And then 2 was Rene, and 3 was Vasilevsky. And then 4 best shot, it was Ovechkin, Weber, who was Line, and then Matthews, and then Stammer. So the Lightning were in all 4. So go check that out on TV, Joe Smith TV, really cool stuff. And also, for all those people that were complaining at us that the Lightning needed to get tougher and they needed to get Wayne Simmons, in the last 5 games, he has 0 points, 7 penalty minutes, 7 shots on goal. Would have been a real difference maker for the Lightning. Probably not.
Yeah.
All right, it's going to wrap it up for us. Make sure you follow Bryan on Twitter at @BBurnsNHL. Follow the team at TB Lightning. Go to TampaBayLightning.com for all the best news and notes. Follow me on Twitter at Recher. Follow the station at 95.3 WDAE. Go to 95.3 WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. We're going to be at the Valspar Championship today, the Ron and Ian Show, until 6:30. The game tonight is on the NBC Sports Network, so make sure you have your TVs tuned to that. But as always, you can hear it on Lightning Power Play, on the iHeartRadio app, at TBL Power Play, or up the dial on our sister station, WFLA. All right, we're going to take a 23-and-a-half-hour break, and we'll be back tomorrow to recap this game and talk about the game tomorrow night in Carolina against the Hurricanes. That's Bryan. I'm Jay. We'll see you next time right here on Bolts Breakdown.